Hey everyone, and welcome. So you think you know what it means to own your home, right? But how do you actually prove it? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and unlock the real story behind property ownership, separating what we think we know from the legal reality.
It's a question that really gets to the heart of a huge misconception. When you buy a car, you get a single piece of paper, the title, and it says, "This is yours." Simple. So when you make the biggest purchase of your life, your house, where is it? Where's that magic piece of paper? And the answer might surprise you. It doesn't really exist. At least not in the way you're thinking.
And this right here, this is the key difference. A car title, you can hold it in your hand. It's a thing. But a real estate title, that's not a single document. It's an idea. It's the whole story, the entire unbroken history of ownership for that piece of land.
Okay, so let's start putting the pieces of this puzzle together. First up, what does title actually mean in the world of real estate?
Okay, this is absolutely crucial to get. Title isn't a piece of paper. It's your legal right to have and to use your property. It's all the evidence bundled together that proves, yep, this is mine. It's an abstract concept, not something you can stick in a safe.
So how do we keep track of all this evidence? We do it with something called the chain of title. And you can totally think of it like your property's family tree. It literally starts at the very beginning, usually the government, what they call sovereignty of the soil. And it traces every single handover, from that first private owner to the next, all the way down to you. And here's the kicker. Every single link in that chain has to be solid, unbroken.
But what happens if a link in that chain is broken? Or maybe a little fuzzy? Well, that's what we call a cloud on the title. And a cloud can be anything really. An unpaid bill from decades ago, a long-lost heir popping up, even just a typo on an old document. And trust me, a cloud is a huge headache. It casts doubt on who the real owner is, and you pretty much have to get it cleared up before you can ever sell the place.
All right, so if the title is this big idea of ownership, this legal right, how do you actually pass that right from one person to the next? That, my friends, is where the deed comes in.
See, the deed is the actual piece of paper. It's the legal tool that gets the job done. When the seller, we call them the grantor, signs that deed and physically hands it over to the buyer, the grantee, that's the moment. That's when the ownership rights officially transfer.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Not all deeds are the same, not even close. Think of the general warranty deed as the gold standard. The seller is making a huge promise here. They're guaranteeing the title is clean, not just during their time, but all the way back to the very beginning. It's the highest level of protection you can get. Then you've got the special warranty deed. It's a step down. The seller is only promising that they didn't do anything to mess up the title while they owned it. Anything before that, not their problem. And finally, the quitclaim deed. This one offers, well, zero promises. The seller is basically saying, look, I'm not saying I own this property, but if I do have any claim to it, I'm giving that claim to you. It's often used to fix problems, like clearing up those clouds we talked about.
Okay, so up to this point, we've been talking about nice, friendly transfers. But what happens when property changes hands and the owner doesn't want it to?
There's a legal term for this, of course, involuntary alienation. It sounds pretty intense, right? And yeah, it usually is. It's basically any time you're forced to give up your property against your will. And this can happen in a few different ways. You've got the ones we've probably all heard of, like foreclosure if you don't pay your mortgage, or bankruptcy. But then there are some others, like something called adverse possession, and the big one, eminent domain. So what is eminent domain? It's the power the government has to take private property for a public purpose. To build a road, a school, a park, as long as they pay you what's considered fair market value. The tricky part, though, is that the definition of public use has gotten pretty flexible over time.
And that brings us to this really famous and frankly controversial Supreme Court case, Kalo versus the City of New London. So what happened? Well, the court decided that a city could actually take people's homes using eminent domain and then give that land to a private company for a new development project. People were outraged, and for good reason. But the ruling stood, and it basically confirmed that the government has this massive power to force a transfer of property, all in the name of economic development.
Okay, so after hearing all that, broken chains, clouds on titles, eminent domain, you're probably thinking, how on earth does anyone safely buy a house? Well, don't worry. There are some really powerful, modern safeguards to protect you.
First up, your number one line of defense, the title search.
This is where a title company sends in the detectives, so to speak. They dig through all the public records, going over that entire chain of title with a fine-tooth comb. Their whole mission is to sniff out any of those potential clouds, any old debts, disputes, anything weird, before you sign on the dotted line.
But hey, nobody's perfect. What if the search misses something? What if there's a problem lurking in the past that nobody could find? That is exactly what title insurance is for. And it's a really unique kind of insurance. See, your car insurance protects you from a future accident. Title insurance protects you from the past. It covers you for things that have already happened, sometimes decades ago. Think a forged signature from the 70s or a secret heir from the 50s. It's your ultimate financial safety net against any ghosts hiding in your property's closet.
So, you've got your title search, you've got your title insurance, you're pretty much set, right? Almost. There is one final step. One thing that you have to do that is probably the single most important action you can take to lock down your ownership. So what is it?
Your deed. The second you get that signed deed in your hands, you need to march it right down to the county records office and get it officially recorded. I mean it.
So why is this such a big deal? Because when you record your deed, it provides something called constructive notice. This is the legal system's way of letting you plant a giant flag on your property and shout to the entire world, "This is mine now." Once it's recorded, nobody can ever come along and say, "Oh, I didn't know you bought it." It makes your ownership official and public, cementing your place in that chain of title forever.
So there you have it. We've gone from title as this big, abstract idea to the deed, the physical document that makes it all real. But it makes you think, right? As our world gets more and more digital, is this system of dusty record books and county clerks going to be around forever? Could we see something like a blockchain title in the future? A perfectly secure digital chain of ownership where proving you own your home is as easy as just scanning a code on your phone? Now that's something to think about.